Legendary Eddie Harris, who, by the way, invented the electrified saxophone. And you just heard him playing it there. This is from his this is the tune Listen Here. This is like a major, highly recognized tune. This is from Harris's 1967 album, The Electrifying Eddie Harris. This is Leid Stories. I'm Latrice Leid, and here we are trying to figure out just what has been happening over the weekend and in the last couple of weeks, actually, to the country and to all of us. And I'm not going with the theory that, it's about the democratic process. This, to me, is not a democratic process at all. It is a fact, in my view, I strongly believe it, that we are in a deep, deep state of denial about what has happened to our country. Our eyes are supposed to be trained on the here and now, and in the here and now, there are efforts in Congress to reel the President of the United States in and make him accountable for some unusual things that he has done. I'm being very kind. In any other country, it would have been plainly put, this president, in effect, has successfully conducted a coup. Yeah, I know it sounds extreme, but look at the facts. It has come to a point where it's never been in terms of governance, the relationship between those who govern and those who are governed, the purpose of this system of governance, which is supposed to uh, put everybody on guard, that it is not just one person or one group of people who dominate, but this, as a democracy, as a democratic country, the power is shared, not with this president. So we are living in a time when we are encouraged to believe that the process again comes to the rescue to assure democracy. You'd be crazy if you think that. We have come to a point where there are all kinds of concessions made so as to give this president, who under no circumstances should have been allowed to be president, but to give him a plausible way out, which of course he will not take because he has already seen the fruits of his labor. He has put everybody in check, and he is the boss. Everybody's in check. Whether they like him or not, he doesn't care. Just leave me alone to do what I want to do. This is my personal property, my country. I can do what I want. And there's nothing you can do to stop me. What is this silly business that you have going on about hearings? You have hearings on whether I have committed major crimes by thumbing my nose at the process. Look, he did that a long time ago. And you let him. They aided and abetted this president to do the outrageous and illegal things that he has done and will continue to do. He has taken personal possession of the apparatus of government. Nobody could deny that, although they'll try. They'll try to tell us, the system is still working and we are having hearings and we're putting out 600 plus page reports on what we have found, and we have taken votes, and we've come up with two things that we want him to be accountable for. And I'm laughing. I'm saying, wait a minute. After all this, you could only come up with two charges, two things. The president, this is after millions and millions of dollars being spent to give the illusion that Congress is doing its job. You come up with two charges. One is obstruction of Congress, and the other is abuse of power. Okay. Nicely packaged, just two things, just so the public isn't too confused. You simplify things and you're moving ahead. This particular president, in my view, has torn asunder every pillar, every post that one expects in the American democratic way of governing. He has done it without shame. In fact, he is openly contemptuous of the process and of the people of this country. And with his tenure in office, the United States and all of its resources have been put at his disposal. He has taken them to be at his disposal. And the country is being run now as a gang. A bunch of people strategically removed from the areas of responsibility they used to have. A new set has come in, and they're all working for Trump. Everybody's working for Trump. And the number one concern is money and power. Trump doesn't care about, what is the right thing, the proper thing, and the just thing. They don't have time for that. This is a straight out takeover of government by a bunch of people who have credentials and who have a false face to give the people the impression that they are legitimate. They're not legitimate people. They're all part of a gang. And they have figured out that under the guise of government, with Trump at the head calling the shots, everybody can do very well, make a lot of money all over the world. They can make tons of money. They can use the resources of the people, the taxes that they pay and whatnot. They've got the biggest till they've ever had. This is like that movie Ocean's 11. They've got lots and lots of character players here. And they're all moved into position so that Trump reigns supreme and he delivers the goods. He gives them power, he gives them access, money, privileges. They like that. They're talking the necessary blather about, it's a democratic society and we're not like those thieves in South America. We're not like the crazies in Russia. We're not the dogmatic folks of China. We are straight arrow people. They all are part of a big criminal enterprise. When you look at it, and you could see that. You're going into your fourth year in office, and so many slots remain unfilled. That's because you got plans. You're the president. You could put your hand in the till whenever you want. You could take as much money whenever you want. You could come up with all these explanations about what you're doing, and people will buy it. They're buying it. You weave in there all kinds of propaganda. You're under attack. The last thing anyone is willing to admit, really, is that this is a very troubled man who is accustomed to being a gangster, accustomed to breaking the rules, accustomed to flying under the radar, accustomed to lying. He hasn't changed, except that he's got so much more opportunity available to him now, to him, his marginally competent children, and close friends and associates. And they look to him just as, the movie, The Godfather. The Godfather dispenses privileges, dispenses rewards. You get a job or you're appointed to a job, your credentials don't matter. You don't have to have credentials. We've seen this time and again in this administration. And still, great denial. Great denial. He's looting the Treasury to do what he wants. The best jobs that are available, he's packing that so that even if they push him out the door, he has his people in place already who will continue to express their loyalty to him, their fidelity to him. This is where the United States has come. It's a criminal enterprise. He has taken it over, the operations of Washington, D.C. He's put his people in, and he's doing whatever he wants. He's saying to the country, you guys can do what you want to please yourselves, to give yourselves the illusion that you have some kind of control over me. You don't. I control this country. I control everything in it. And as we've seen, the Democrats are only putting up a ceremonial fit to say, well, it's on the record, we didn't agree, and we fought it. But let's look at the Democratic Party, which is at fault, by the way. This Democratic Party has been so lackadaisical. It has been so inattentive. It has been so reluctant to truly exercise its power, to be truly an effective means of checks and balances, especially now when we so desperately need it. They're walking around. People are being fired from their jobs by the thousands. The economy, never mind what Trump says, because he's a liar. He would lie about everything. He says what a great economy it is, but at the same time, I'm reading in these publications that keep tabs on where the economy is. They're reporting stores closing by the thousands, and not little mom and pop shops. Big stores are folding. Employees are being let go. Sometimes entire towns begin to crumble because the stores are closing up shop. You can see what's happening here. This is not a prosperous economy. This is an economy in great trouble. Who's controlling the economy? A Trumpian. That's what I'm saying. He has radically reorganized the system, specifically for him and what he believes he needs to do for him, not just for the next 4 years. So you could take Trump out. He doesn't care. His system is already in place and functioning very, very well as regards his interests. And now it's a global effort. They've taken hold of the money that runs this country. They're the ones making policy. They're the ones with the great plans, the ambitious plans, supported by a well-tuned propaganda machine. Everything is just fantastic under the leadership of this visionary president. But what about those people on the street, sleeping in the street? Well, those are people without ambition. Don't blame Trump for that. What about schools that have no funding? Oh, don't blame Trump for that. That's because they have been operating on a false principle all these years. That all they need to do is put out their hands and get more money. We want accountability. Yeah. But mark my word, we haven't seen it blatantly yet. We've seen only glimpses of it. But it wouldn't be too long before the nation has to accept this new order. And it is all geared toward profits for Mr. Trump and his ilk. They have no shame. They have no conscience. And even the people who are supposed to be their adversaries have been tamed. You should have, if things were working right, you should have a Democratic Party, a Green Party, a Working Families Party, all clear that Donald Trump is a menace to this country and much of the world. And it's going to be a fight. And you take him out of office. Him and his organization. If we were to have access to an organizational chart, you'll see what it is. They have taken over essential functions of government, and they are firmly in control of them. Even though they have no talent, they have no experience or expertise, they just have the one thing that Trump absolutely requires above everything else, which is loyalty. Just like any crook, just like any mobster. Yeah, I know from time to time we have to do some killings and we have to do some kidnappings and we have to do some very nasty stuff, but it's all part of the business. This is what we have. We have a psychologically very unstable man. This is not new. He's been like this for most of his life. But coupled with the ability to have power and to exercise it unilaterally, you have the makings of a monster. You can't put that monster back in the box. It's out. And what is happening is he's so successful. I have some dental work. He's so successful at getting that done. It now is the new way to think, the new way to act, the new way to go. It is now the normal thing to think and act the way he wants us to think and act. Openly contemptuous of anybody who would challenge him, and absolutely sure that he was put on the planet to own the planet, own the whole planet. That's what he wants. His eldest son, Donald Trump Jr., was reported to have gone, I forget which country, to do some hunting recently. He wanted to hunt a nearly extinct sheep. It takes years for the sheep to grow its magnificent curved horns. And the sheep is revered. However, it is at the point of extinction. And that's exactly what he wanted to shoot and hunt and shoot, right? Now you have to apply for a permit to the government to give you permission to go hunting for this particular kind of sheep because, as I said, they're at the point of extinction. He didn't wait. He went and shot and killed the sheep. And then days later, there came an official permission for him to hunt. The idea is, I'll do it. I want to kill this animal. And whether you give me permission or not, I will assume I have permission. I am Donald Trump Jr. I could do these things. But this is where we are. This band of gangsters masquerading as lawyers, as government officials, as people with expertise, people who know how to use a knife and fork and be around people in polite company. They're gangsters, they're ruthless gangsters, and they're organized now. They are an organized group. Make no mistake about it. So that you're talking about having to live with these people for some time. You remove one, you remove two, there are 20 others functioning not only with that mindset, but functioning with that sense of loyalty to Trump. They're still taking orders from Trump. If even they got rid of Trump via, these hearings and impeachment, you think Trump is going away? You think Trump's Trump's impressions that he has already made, the work he has already done to assemble a team who will do exactly as he says, without question, without opposition, they'll be there. So we can be deluded if we want that what is happening in Congress now is that Congress is taking charge and really taking a hard look at what this president has done and continues to do. But who are they kidding? All this time, the leader of the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, had, I've talked about this before, you have eyes in your head, you can see what's going on. All these political parties were sitting there observing as if that would solve a problem. They had no answers. They didn't pursue any answers. Trump is strengthening his ties with his so-called political base. They are content to wait and see what develops. And so we have a whole party that had in its hands all the information that it needed to act. It didn't. Because they didn't want to go through the trouble. They were afraid of confronting Trump, which happens to be their job. That's your job, to represent the people and the people's interests. It had to come to a point of inevitability before the Democratic Party acted like it understood it had this power all the time. It had the wherewithal to do it. It had reason to do it. But no, they sat around. And Ms. Pelosi, in the face of the facts, started talking about, well, it would be so traumatic to the nation. So now she's the national psychiatrist. It will be too traumatic for the nation to do it, but you ended up doing it, which means you should have done it before. You blew it, and she ought to go. All of these Democrats that sat and waited and were looking for the opportune moment, they had all of this at their disposal. And they did nothing. Certainly they didn't do it expeditiously. They had to do it because they saw inevitability facing them. It would be inevitable that Trump will have to be confronted. And even so, with all that we know that this president has done, you come up with 2 articles of impeachment. What are you saying? You're saying, look, we really didn't want to do this. Our leader already has apologized for having to do anything serious about the situation because in her own head, it would be too traumatic, too upsetting for the nation to go through. We're talking about removing a president who clearly shouldn't be there. You have everything you need to address the situation. You wait, you wait, you wait. You give excuse after excuse. And now, almost on the cusp of what would be his re-election, you make a flimsy effort and you make people feel, uh, well, we did something. We listened to you. This is what we have to put up with. You see? This is what we have to put up with. As long as you get your pension, Ms. Pelosi, as long as she retains a leadership position of control, she's okay. Let people go out on strike. Let companies shut down. Let the economy go to hell, as long as she's taken care of. You come up with 2 measly articles of impeachment, and we're all supposed to be very, very grateful to you. I'm not, because I know you're all playing games. And you're playing games because you are absolutely sure, as Trump is, the people are not going to come out in the streets. They're not going to face you down publicly. They're not going to call for your head. They will not insist that you leave your office. Get out. If at this time, after all the things that you have access to, all the evidence, all the documents, all the personal direct experience you have had and members of Congress have had in your party, and 2 articles of impeachment, and Trump is already prepared to fight you tooth and nail, and even if he loses, he wins. He has already organized his system. We are the people stuck in the middle. We have no or little recourse. We can't fix this matter. It was fixable, but she's not listening. Not listening. And the implicit instruction is, we are taking care of this. And they produce a grand total of 2 causes of action against Trump, for which either way, whether he is found guilty of these 2 things or not, he's already set. He's in safe territory. His future and the future of all the people who concern him, they're well protected. And he will continue to run this country because the Democratic Party cannot and will not admit this president has already taken over the government. The president has conducted a coup, and it doesn't look like it. It doesn't feel like it. But it's done. I will pause here and give you some time to react at 888-874-4888. We take this little break and come back to your thoughts. listening to Leid Stories. I'm Utrice Leid, and now the focus is on you and what you have to say. What are you thinking about our situation and whether we have passed the point of turning it around? We just will have to live for at least the foreseeable future with what has already been put in play. And that is Donald Trump has won outright. All these things about, they're having hearings, that's something to distract. But definitively, he has won already. Khalil from South Carolina, what have you to say?
Oh, hi. How are you?
Okay. How are you?
Good. I'm keeping my head above water. But it's so refreshing to hear. Well, how do I say this? It's so refreshing to hear you present your argument as the truth, which it is. And it's so disgusting that our fellow Americans, many of them, just aren't getting it. And yes, it's a coup. I mean, any of us who have been students of history, especially, let's say, in the third world, the SO countries, this is exactly how they operate. And I mean, what is it going to take? Do people have to be slapped in the face? Say, look, this man take your emotions out of it. He's inserted the right people in the right positions to do the right thing for him, and to operate lawlessly. It's disgusting, and the C word. That's exactly what it is. And just because he says it, he projects all the time. Matter of fact, if you listen closely, when he called Adam Schiff demented or something of that nature, it's like, okay, so you're talking about yourself. The time has come. This man has to go. This is and the Attorney General. That's the thing. We know Donald Trump is mentally ill. I don't know that Attorney Barr is mentally ill. However, he is, whatever evil is, he is that. And the fact that, do you remember when the mainstream media and the for-profit media kept saying, well, he's a professional and he'll, live up to the job and da-da-da. And I'm thinking, no, I don't think so. Because I remember Iran-Contra. It didn't add up to me. So we're in a bad place. And, let me say this. Living in the Deep South, when I try to recruit folks to vote, black people especially, and they say that's white people's business. And now I understand what that means. Because maybe voting on the federal level, it doesn't amount to nothing. The local politics is different, but on the federal level, because I see him winning again. This is the last gasp at white supremacy at all costs. And I don't know. That's the way I see it. But I you were less animated than I am right now, obviously, because you're a professional or what you do. But I find it. I'm just saying, I just find it disturbing that more Americans just don't see it for what it is. I mean, do we not remember Mugabe and Papa Doc? And I mean, my God, the list goes on and on. This is in fact, if you don't believe in that, just believe in how the heroin was flowing out of Vietnam. You know how they did that? They got the right people in the right places.
Like any other criminal enterprise. Like any criminal enterprise. That's how they operate. This is how this president has operated from day one. He's clear. He's operating a criminal enterprise. He wouldn't call it that himself, but we can analyze it and see it's, just everything. The criminality is so pervasive that you can't separate it from Donald Trump. So,
I'm glad you brought up the fact that there were only 2 articles, because we should listen to Al Green when he first stepped out, because that's a weak case. I don't understand that rationale. They don't have to vote on all of them. It doesn't matter if they all don't pass, but the evidence needs to be out there. So, I'm sorry. I know you want to go. Okay.
Oh, thank you for getting us started today, and thank you for your contribution.
All right.
888-874-4888. Ma'at, you're on the air.
Yes, greetings to the beloved family. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, okay, wonderful. We love you, Trees, as an aside. Yeah, I absolutely agree with your analysis. And 60 Minutes had a piece last night on El Salvador. And that's another instance of extortion by Donald Trump. They brought on the youngish, I think he's 38 years old, president, who was extorted to sign an agreement in order to get partial aid, foreign aid, which he's taken from all the rest of the Central American countries. And he signed an agreement where all refugees can be taken or directed or left in or sent to El Salvador. And he admitted he has no infrastructure. It's after the 1980 Civil War fomented by the U.S. Those same people came to the United States, became gang members, and went back, and you can't even go down a particular street without being killed unless you get permission. And of course, there's a El Salvador man that was sent to Mexico that was brutally murdered, and it just goes on and on. There's no reason why the Democrats should have been prescient, bumping up to all the corruption around where we are now by moving forward with all the Al Green, his concerns, and all the rest of it. Easily you could have 12 articles because the historical record, and you trees, especially since the Republicans, I mean, they're just dealing in another alternate universe. They claim not to have heard Donald Trump on the White House law and say, yeah, that's what I was doing, and bringing China to, and it just goes on and on. I also want to mention that A.M. Joy Ann Reid, last week had a piece with someone who did an article, I think it's called in Gen, Gen, and he's someone that's been involved in the Democratic Party as a strategist and an advisor, the DNCC, and all of those that. He came up with breaking it down into three portions or sectors. You deal with the criminal aspects of this president and the crimes and misdemeanors. Then you deal with the co-conspirators, Pence, Pompeo, Mulvaney, rather than just targeting Donald Trump and letting them get away. And the third aspect is a national security review in terms of where Donald Trump has left the country in terms of national security. When he had Lavrov, the foreign minister of Russia, at the same time the impeachment proceedings, it's obvious that Russia has some sort of compromat on him because a president that has never met with a foreign minister brought to the White House. We remember in 2017 how he gave out classified information, left out the American press, and Tass was the one that told us the crazy things he said, like, well, I don't mind if you interfere because we've also done that, and on and on. And it's just... I mean, this man is just taking the country down into the sewer.
But everybody knew that. See, everybody knew that. Everybody knew that even before he officially ran for office. In the Democratic Party, the House Intelligence Committee knew that. Everybody knows Trump. And an extreme narcissist. That's what they like to do. As long as he's in the middle of it all, and he, gets to bask in his glory about the things that he can do routinely.
Clinical level narcissist personality. I think it's called personality disorder, borderline personality disorder.
He's not borderline.
Type of narcissist.
He's way over the border, way over the line. He needed to be put someplace into treatment if it would help him and his family. But certainly it is not about the nation, because he cannot help the nation achieve what the nation needs to achieve. He cannot do it. He doesn't have the qualifications and the experience and expertise to do it. Just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean that you know what you're doing. But
that's not even clear that he has a lot of money to begin with. That's why he doesn't want to release his tax returns.
No, he doesn't have a lot of money. He doesn't have nearly the kind of money he continues to fool the public about that he has. But I am saying that the emphasis also has to do with a dereliction of duty by the Democratic Party in particular. They allowed many of these things to mushroom and grow. And by so doing, they gave it life. He was basically uncontested. And when there was a reaction, it was almost personal. Oh, well, he's just so rude. Who cares about whether he's rude or not? We care about whether he's a crook or not. We care about whether he is taking this country for a ride, whether he is using the resources of the country. That's the when they talk about abuse of power, that's not what they include. That the president feels perfectly comfortable just putting his hand in the till to do whatever he wants to do.
Yeah, and because it's only 2 articles, that's one of his talking points. That makes him feel vindicated in his crazy mind. Let me lastly mention the name of the author of this article about why this whole crime spree should be broken down into 3 parts. His name is Simon Rosenberg, and he made some excellent points in terms of moving forward.
All right. Thank you so much for your call today and your contribution. 888-874-4888. Ed from New York, you're on the air.
Hello?
Oh, you're on the air, Ed.
Yeah, how you doing, Utrice?
Okay. How about you?
Like I tell you always, I'm hanging on by my thumbs. Aside from Mr. Donald Trump, I honestly believe that the American people are at fault. And they're cowards. I mean, there was a report, aside from what Donald Trump is doing, there was a report that came out last week about how they blatantly lied to us about the Gulf War, how they blatantly lied to us about the implications of Iraq and 9/11. I mean, this government has constantly and consistently been treating the American people like garbage. And we stand back and we allow it. And this is what you get. I mean, you get what you deserve, and this is what you get when you've been stepped on, when you've allowed your government, you've allowed your elected officials that are supposed to service you to step on you repeatedly, from Clinton to Obama to this jerk, and now when crisis time comes, and when there should be some type of reaction, when people should be out in the streets shutting this country down, they're not. Then you get what you deserve. I mean, I can't, I know what you're saying about the political process, but the people aren't taking any type of actions or command of the situation. And when you do that, this is what you get. The powers that be walk all over you. And that's what we've been getting for the past 40 years in this country. There is no political heart. There is no political action from the public in this country to really stop these people, to make them afraid, to make them take notice, to make them understand where their constituency is coming from, and it's all been directed by millionaires and professional politicians, and I've just had enough of it. I mean, I indict the American people. Why aren't you out in the streets? Look at China. Look at Haiti. Look at South America. I mean, stand for something or fall for anything. That's all I got.
Thanks, Ed. Thank you so much. Well, that brings us to the end of our program today. I just wanted it said that we should not be under any illusion that this is, going according to process. No. We need to understand that there has been a coup. The government has been taken over and has been redirected to serve the needs and purposes and interests of a small group of people, a small percentage of people. This president is the architect of that. And this is a gangster regime. We don't need to apologize for that, for saying that, because that is what is indeed happening. We are suffering, and we will continue to suffer as long as we don't take action. We'll see each other tomorrow. Thanks for listening and contributing today.